So before we start the video, I want to say this is thanks to Q-Man who fully funded this photo book being critiqued for you guys. And thanks to Paul and everyone else on Patreon for suggesting this as well. So this is Hoshino Minami's photo book. Amazon is apparently not shipping to the US right now in terms of books. So I had to get this from my friend who went to Japan. So that's why this video took a while. So let's go ahead and look at the front cover as we always do. But first, let's see who the photographer is. And unfortunately, I don't know how to pronounce this photographer's name, but you can go ahead and follow him on Twitter at Rupin38. So go ahead and give him a follow. And this photographer has mainly shot males and let's just say busty girls. So this person doing Hoshino Minami's photo book is pretty interesting choice in terms of whoever's decision it was. And I'm really curious to see how these skills of doing that type of photography with those certain type of clients works with Hoshino Minami. So it should be fairly interesting to see how this works out. Let's start off with the front cover. Front cover, I'm imagining is alluding to a little bit of it, but I don't think it's going to go too hard. I didn't see anything like talking about it in a lewd way on Twitter. So I don't imagine it goes too deep into that. But it is kind of giving that emphasis here. And the lighting is pretty nice. I think that's coming from a window light, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a nice little Rembrandt light, as we see from the triangle of light right here. And then flipping it, we get to see a little bit more of a scenic shots with an umbrella in the back. A little bit more traditional photo book-esque. Nothing too new like we've seen lately. So I'll go ahead and open the photo book and let you guys know what I think about it. So I just looked through it, and honestly, that was actually pretty good. Like, I guess it was my low expectations, but I think it's definitely worth the money, just saying it right off the bat. So let's go look through it, and I'll say who I recommend it to. As I said in the beginning, front cover kind of gives a vibe. This is actually an alternate take of what we see inside. I'm glad they stuck with this one. Turning it over, this is actually one from the actual photo book. I think there could have been better decisions in this one, kind of give more of a theme, maybe more of the location they were at, because I kind of got a feel for where they're at without it explicitly saying or me remembering where it was. But I feel like that would have been better in the back. So let's go ahead and open it up. First looking at the inside cover, which is actually in black and white, which is pretty interesting. And not in a way, because we've seen it black and white before, but in this one, it's like a long black and white. So it's pretty interesting to have it like that. Let's go ahead and start opening it. And first shot we get right away really draws you in, especially with those lights and all the elements that are playing in this. I think this is a nice image to start. Again, we want to start off with a strong image, and I think this starts off with a strong image. But then going to the next one, we get the opening page. So I kind of like that whole, like, here's the intro page. And bam, first chapter. So I think that's a real interesting way to do it. And honestly, I give props to the photographer a lot in this one and whoever decided to organize the photo book together, because a lot of these two pages really, really go well with each other. Sometimes they do the whole like, hey, here's the same second apart, but sometimes they do the same second, but like in a different angle, or at a wider angle with a tighter one. And I think that's really nice to mix the two together, and I think it really is a lot of eye appeal. So right off the bat, a lot of props to the photographer and whoever designed the photo book for doing these kind of things. Going into the photo book, we can see it is starting off with a lot of her characteristics. Of course, her love of bread, and having a little bit more silliness into it, having it a little bit more cutesy like Minami's style. Here's one part where I wish it was like maybe at a different angle a little bit, because it's her running, then her jumping over the tracks. Very dangerous, be careful. Again, wish these two could have been at a different angle, but with this we get a whole view of the city. So maybe just sticking with this one and removing the white borders would have been the better option. But I kind of like what they did here. They like made it like over here, but still maybe just with this picture should have been fine. And here we go. This is where we start getting like a little bit of variety of images. Here we get a little bit more cinematic photograph. Over here we get a wide setting the environment. And then right here we get a little bit more personality based / scenic. So these two are very wide. This one was probably with the tight lens. Over here, I'm guessing, if I were to make a guess, you can see it's kind of warped a little, maybe like a 24. I'm making a guess, I don't really know. But it is a wide angle lens, I will say that. I actually like the mood that this photograph puts that goes along with this mood. This one is just a nice little eye appeal in my opinion. But this one really sets the mood with her and her silliness and then her laughing over here. I think it really helps envelop her personality right off the bat, kind of letting you sink into her and kind of letting you touch bases with her just in case you didn't know who she was. And here we go, an example of how it's like a second apart, but it's different angles. And here we see her crawling under the desk, but then right here, still crawling under the desk. But we get two different perspectives on this, and I think this is actually really good. Again, not a big fan of the white borders most of the time. In this case, it isn't too bad. It's better than having on this one since this was already white. And this one, it kind of causes a little bit of a difference between the previous page. But still, I really like this whole difference right here of different angles, and especially how this one's dark and this one's light. Here we see a little bit of the similar theme where the light one is on the right and the dark one is on the left. But I feel like this image right here isn't as strong, especially with the shadow on her face going like this. It kind of makes her look sad. And then over here it's a little more pensive. So I think this image by itself should have done fine, and I'm not too big of a fan of this one. Then we get another cinematic one. This one's supposed to be like a little bit more cropped in, kind of like more cinematic, as I said. And this one's a little bit more like in motion, which helps cause that cinematographic feel to it. And the hands in motion with the dress falling down really causes all this to really go cinematic. Then we get into the legs. These are second aparts, different angles. Glad, but I don't feel like it was too necessary. Maybe just sticking with the stronger one, which I think is this one, would have been better. And then this one is out of focus. It's all on her lips. It should have been on her eye. And then we get into this category where, honestly, with this outfit, maybe she wasn't comfortable enough, but I don't feel like she's making the right faces for all of these. Like, looking through them, the face is not the strongest in these images. The posing is there, but the face isn't completely there. Later we'll see more of this style, and I feel like those are much stronger than these. Maybe this was early on into the shoots, maybe it was the first day, like right away, and she wasn't completely comfortable, but I feel like by the end, we'll see her more comfortable. For example, this one, we can see that it's a little bit more serious face. It isn't like so much like confident or even like shy as her personality is a little bit more geared towards. If you look at this, it's okay posing, but then with the face, it's like kind of brings it down a level. Again, later on, we'll see better faces from her. And then finally, we move to this one, which I think is a very interesting composition. I like how, again, I guess whoever did this is a fan of having this right here. I'm not a big fan of it. I think in some places it was okay, some places it wasn't, but I like the composition of this one kind of having half the face. And I know it's about her, but still having a little bit more interest like this is interesting for sure. It's kind of like, you know the rules, but sometimes you have to break them, and this is an example of that. Here we have her about to get run over, and then here we have her getting this nice light from this huge door over here, or opening. And I really like it. I really like the comparison of like this old guy right here with this older gentleman over here. And inside of a different environment than we do here, it's kind of like you're in this open environment with this being a detail, and then bam, you're inside. So I really like this comparison right here, and especially, again, this light to dark. Then we move on to this page right here, and I actually like this one. I like the concept to it. I kind of like that she's inside of the closet, and that she's inside and the shadows going all towards her, kind of causing this flat lighting, and the light basically going through here and then bouncing back in here. That's why the light, as you can see, is a little bit stronger on this side than on this side. Because over here, there's no light bouncing. While over here, she's getting all the light from over here. And that's thanks to these drapes over here and thanks to it being white. If it was dark, there wouldn't be that much. But thanks to it reflecting, you get a nice, very, very, very soft light on her. And you can still see there's some effect of this light over here from the shadows here. But overall, I like the concept. Lighting is nice on her face. And again, it's all about the concept. And as we can see, in these faces, they're definitely much stronger here. Compared to before, this one's a little bit more soft, a little bit more sensible. The other ones were a little bit too stiff. But I think these face poses especially are much stronger. Wait a minute, is this exactly the same? Wait a minute, I think this is exactly the same. I'm looking at like the strands of hair just to see if it's the same picture. Yeah, her tongue is a little bit different. So what I think happened is she stood there and then they painted on the what looks like to be strawberry jam, because the hair is exactly the same. The tongue is a little bit different. I don't know if that's just like the paper quality, but I think it's a little bit different. Yeah, because there's a deeper shadow right here than there is right here. So I think she sits still and then they painted it on. Okay. I was about to give you like, dude, like how did they, like, did they get an example of her without it? But yes, it's her with strawberry jam, and in fact, there's 4 of them. Don't need that much, honestly. Here we have a nice color theme, which is blue with blue with blue. Not a fan of the sideways angle, but hey, everyone has their own taste. Playing with a little bit of bubbles over here, and I think this adds a nice element in the front, kind of giving that dimensionality of having that in the foreground, her in the middle, and then this in the background. This one, not the strongest because the bubble is in focus and she isn't. These 4 are a little bit repetitive for me, but I honestly think that maybe this one right here could be a really strong 2-page spread. If you look at this one, the 2-page spread would be like right here, and then it'd be her on the left side and then this kid on the right side, which I think would have caused a nice comparison between the two. This one right here, it looks like a storm is brewing and she's causing it. This one we've seen previewed. It must have been sharpened way more because right here it looks pretty blurry. Then we have this interesting shot. We don't usually see them play a lot with mirrors in this way, but in this case it actually isn't too bad, and I think the light really helps over here. Maybe with a tighter lens it would have been a little bit better. That way her hand doesn't look really huge here. And then we get some outside images, and I like this one actually. Usually I don't like this type of lighting with it, but I feel like this one is actually pretty nice. I think it might be thanks to the gel the person is using. I think it's more of a warmer gel to kind of match all the lights in the background. So I think the 2 colors really honestly go well together, and I like it. Then we get this interesting shot right here, which is of her in the train, and then we get to see like from the outside view, which I think is pretty interesting. A little dangerous to leave her by herself, but you know, for the shot, right? And I like how she's composed inside of this one, and this one's empty. And I think this graffiti even adds a little bit of interest to it. It's kind of saying like, oh hey, watch out, it's over here. And then there's a cute little Minami in there. And then we get 2 shots of this, which, did they use a cookie? I forget what the long name is for, but it's like a cookie sheet, which basically has patterns on a metal thing. And then you shoot the light through, and then it causes patterns like this in the background. Not everyone does it anymore, it's kind of old school. But with the lighting and everything, it's actually pretty interesting, especially with like the milk bath. But there's only these 2 pictures. I kind of wish there was a little more of this. Maybe like 4, maybe like take off 2 from the strawberry jam one and add 2 more of these. But I do like the 2-shot comparison between these 2, kind of showing the knees and then bam, showing her. Because remember, this photo book is going from this side to this side. And this honestly might be one of the best examples that I see of like having a good 2 shots next to each other. It's this one right here, a really wide one showing the environment she's in with her right here, and then bam, going in here and just showing it all in its glory. And having these 2 right here next to each other really complement each other and really adds that contrast with each other, and it's a really good job. Here we see her being a little bit more comfortable in her environment. Here we see her smiling a little bit more. I'm saying as these photos go on, I feel like her facial expressions get much better. These 2 are kind of like the same thing as I said before, where it's having the close-up and then the far away one. I think this is a good example, especially with the angles that this person is at. This one being a little bit higher than her, this one being kind of level with her. This one right here, Shinichi Mai kind of had a similar thing going on. Not a big fan of it, so it doesn't really help add a shape to anything. I think this one is much better and should have probably just stuck with this one. And then we get a nice wide of this, and we get to see more of the light over here. As we can see, the light is right there, kind of causing a nice little shape to her face. Again, lights being from a certain direction really helps in certain people's faces, and I think this one really complements her face. Fingers are soft, that's good. I wish this one was a little softer, but I think the face is spot on for this one. Again, as it keeps on going, better faces. Then we get one of her over here, covered up, and I think this one is pretty nice. I think this white over here is just a tad bit distracting. Maybe having it instead of vertical, horizontal. I'm not too sure how big the bed was, but I think that would have been the better option. Then we have this interesting shot right here, which is her over here next to the door. It's a pretty high concept shot. It isn't like your typical photo book shots, which I actually enjoy that they actually included stuff like this. So this is pretty interesting right here. Don't really know what it's saying, but I kind of like where it's going. And then we get these nice leading lines. Look at this, leading lines over here and then goes on over here. Pretty nice overall. I mean, going in with the lines with thanks to the laundry and then her right there. Really nice. Again, don't know how I feel about these white borders though. This one I actually really like. For some reason, I really like this one, even though it's like in strong sun and we see that she's covering up just for the photo thanks to the sun being in her eyes. But I think it's actually fairly nice. Like, I think the lighting kind of complements her. Like, you can see her cheekbones right here. You can see her nose shadow right here. You can see the chin definition. I think, yeah, I think this is fairly nice. Right here, I like this image. I just wish it was a tad bit brighter. For some reason, when I saw this image, I thought her shoes were in her hands. But then when I looked closer, they weren't. I kind of wish they were. Now, these two images right here are really strong. The ones before it are not the strongest. I think it might be thanks to the slanted angle that I don't really like. But these two I think are really strong. I think this one would have fit nice with maybe one of these, kind of having that like whole close in and wide out. But I think right here, it actually matches pretty well. We get to see this fuchsia colored ground with her wearing the red and the pink, kind of having very nice complementary, not complementary. Oh, what's the word I'm thinking of? Well, basically when colors are very similar to each other, this is the type of feel it is. So I kind of like this one. Oh, that little bit of gray, just a little bit more. Okay, that's just a personal, very nitpicky thing. But I think this image is very strong. Kind of wish she was right here to see a little bit more of her face, but I kind of like how it's the umbrella hiding her face and the page hiding her face. Here's another two shot that I really, really like. It's this one right here, which is a close-up of her face with the balloons taking up most of the frame. Again, adding dimensionality, balloons, face, background. Really a nice composition. And then right here we get a nice wide of her enjoying herself and kind of being more about expression. Composition, expression, complementing each other, having balloons, a connection, and having a close-up with a wide. Really nice. And actually I like this image a lot. I like the lighting in this image a lot. It's very much to the side, a little bit, I think it's a little bit more loop than it is Rembrandt. And I think the facial expression is, I think, what makes it especially strong. Like here we see different facial expressions, but I still think this one is much stronger. It's a little bit more natural. Although I kind of like this face right here that she's putting on. This one seems a little bit posy. But this one, I think with the lighting and everything, it really complements well. And I think I just like that lighting style in general. Here we have another excellent two shot. We have a wide of her with the carriage and her looking back. And then we have her inside of the carriage enjoying herself, looking forward with nice flat lighting on her coming in from this side. Really nice. Again, these two right here, really nice. This photographer really knows how to do these two shots really well. And another example, her in here and then her getting out, kind of helping continue the story and still having those two interesting different types of shots with being close and wide. Again, really big fan of this. Right here, wardrobe, don't know how it really fits with this beach theme. It might have been close by, so they're like, hey, let's go there anyway. Yeah, honestly, not the biggest fan of this. Though this one, with having a little bit of grass helping out the yellow that's in her dress, and plus it being very moody with the blacks and the darks being dropped a lot in this image, I feel like this is a nice moody image. And then we move on to these two. I've been thinking about it, and I think flipped, this could have been interesting, or even facing the same way. I don't know how I feel about them looking separate ways. They're wearing different outfits, then looking separate ways, like maybe this one being a little more moody and this one being a little bit more cutesy would have been a nice complement with each other, kind of showing both sides of her. But having her kind of wearing the same thing over here as over here, I don't know how I feel about it, but I will have to say this shot right here might be my favorite shot of the photo book. Just the way the light falls on her, the posing of the hands, the things in the background. Like if the photographer was up a little bit more, this lighthouse would have been sticking out of her head. So good thing the photographer went down a little bit more just to get it over here. And I think her being framed inside of this shadow is really nice, adds another element with the highlights and everything. Everything just blends in really well, and I really like this image. And then next to it, this one's a little bit soft, but it still adds that mood. And again, that two shots of having it a little bit closer really adds to it. And something is missing in this one. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a highlight or something. And then we get this final image right here, which is a big one to send it off. And I think this is a really strong image to send it off. And after some interview stuff, we get to see a little bit of what seems to be like offshoots in London. Not really too sure what this is about at the end. I think this is all the leftover images that were like really good that they had or something. I actually really like this one. This one's all right. I feel like it's a little bit too strong on the sun flare, but I think this one's pretty strong on the sun flare as well, but I feel like it adds a little bit more drama into the image, while this one kind of looks a little bit distracting. And move on to the final image right here, which I feel like would have been better if it was actually this image right here. I feel like this image would have been stronger than here, but I can see why they chose this image with the wordings helping out with this environment. And that's the photo book. Actually, I really enjoy that photo book. I think the photographer does the formatting really well with the two shots. Like the photographer must have an image in mind of how they want it. They think ahead and think, okay, I want this image next to the sort of like this type of image, which I really appreciate and really helps define the photo book and really helps make it stronger. It isn't very chronological in the point of I didn't really get a sense of story going through, but that doesn't hurt it at all. I think having it sort of like this, different environments, not showing like, okay, here's day, then night, and then here's day again, and then night. Having it a little bit more mixed around and having it more set on themes is really strong. And again, those two shots are my favorite from this photo book. I think this photo book is really strong in that point, having the comparison of the two. It just really brought it out in this one. Great job, everyone who worked on this photo book. I think it came out really good. And again, don't know if that's the low expectations or just really good photo book. So who would I recommend this photo book to? I'd recommend it to, of course, Hoshino Minami fans. But actually I recommend it to people who are actually interested in photography a little bit. I feel like you can really learn from a lot of the stuff that's in this photo book. And I might have said in the beginning that I don't know how it would turn out thanks to the photographer's experience, but I think it turned out really well. People who like Hoshino Minami, who are interested in learning a little bit more about photography, and of course people who are interested in idols, I think in general, yeah. I feel like this is a really strong example of what a good, just photography-based photo book should be. Like Shunichi Mai is good as a travel one and as a photography one. This one's good as just like a straight up photography one. And even travel, like even though it wasn't too strong on the travel elements as much as like Shunichi Mai's was, I still feel like you got a sense of what the city was that she was at and the fact that she was abroad, which is really good in photo books to show that they are in a different environment instead of making it all, I don't know, in the grassy outside of a hotel. So yes, let me know what you guys think about the photo book if you own it yourself. And if you're picking it up, let me know what you guys think about it when you actually open it up. There's a lot of images that I didn't show, and I definitely recommend picking it up and seeing it for yourself. Seeing it online, sure, you can do that. But as I said, even in this photo book, I think this photo book especially is strong picking it up, having those two shots next to each other. There's much more examples of it inside that I didn't show. Really good to pick it up, and I think it's definitely worth it. So that does it all for this video. Subscribe to see more photo book critiques in the future. You can go ahead and hit the little bell to be notified when videos come up. And go ahead and hit me up on Patreon if you want to see this photo book as well as others being critiqued thanks to you guys who are on there supporting me. You can go ahead, there's a tier just for photo books if you're interested in that. And also if you go on Patreon, then I'll be able to afford more photo books in order to critique them all. So that does it all for this time. Go ahead and look forward to my next photo book critique or watch an old one. But as I say every single time, thank you all for watching.